And welcome back to the show, everybody. Coming to you from our South Florida studios down here in Jupiter, Florida. Not bragging, but it's a nice place to be this time of year. And all this brought to you by our friends at Casa de Campo in the Dominican Republic. I was there 2 weeks ago, by the way. Pete Dye's golf course, Teeth of the Dog. It's open again. Unbelievable. Go to casadecampo.com. It will be a family vacay you're going to absolutely love. Hey, our next guest, Bob Friend, is a friend, even though I haven't talked to him in a long time. And it's so funny because a couple of weeks ago, Rod Pyatt, this gentleman from Pittsburgh, hosted myself and two others out at Seminole. And on the second hole, I bring up Bob Friend's name. And Bobby, I had no idea you and Rod were like best buddies. We talked about you for at least an hour. Your ears must have been burning.
Yeah, I've known Rod Pyatt. I have known Rod Pyatt. I'm 62 now.
Yeah.
I have probably known Rod Pyatt for 47 years.
Wow.
Yeah, knew his dad who started Millcraft Industries there in Washington, Pennsylvania. And yeah, I have known Rod forever, served with him on the board at Oakmont. He's an absolutely fantastic guy, one of my best buddies.
Yeah, I was embarrassed. I had not played a lot of golf leading into that. And I wanted to play great because it was my first time ever at Seminole. But nevertheless, the experience was wonderful. And for those watching and listening, Seminole has been around since 1929. Donald Ross, Jim.
Brilliant.
Ben Hogan used to come down in the 30s and 40s and practice there before we would go up to Augusta National. I mean, Bobby, the history there is amazing.
The history is amazing. The golf course is, Core and Crenshaw went in there and they have updated it. They brought a lot of the sand back in. But it is vintage Donald Ross. The greens are severe. You never want to hit the ball long on a Donald Ross green. No. Seminole is one of those things where if it's calm, you can go out there, as a good player, as a tour player, you can go out there and when it's calm, shoot 65. But when it's windy, it is a freak show because the greens can roll 13 to 15 on the stimp meter. And just a great practice facility, the great history of the club. And, you pull in there and, they've got the saltwater pool that like the last person ever stepped foot in there was like 1977. It's just a really, really cool place. One of the best locker rooms in all of golf.
It's amazing. Now, again, for our viewers and listeners, Bob Friend played on the PGA Tour, played on the Champions Tour. Bobby, you won on what is now the Korn Ferry Tour. You played at LSU. You were an All-American there. We won't hold that against you, by the way. Tell me this. I want to get your thoughts on the future of the PGA Tour because Brian Rolapp, the new CEO, first time there hasn't really been a commissioner. He's the CEO businessman. And he's talked about next year proposed changes, not official yet, consolidating the schedule, starting it after the Super Bowl, not as many events. Maybe some tournaments that have been around for decades may no longer be a part of the PGA Tour. 120-man fields, $10 million purses for all the tournaments. What do you think, Bob? Do you like what you hear, or are you skeptical in some capacity?
Well, in the first place, something has to be done. Look, I sit there. You look at Brooks Koepka coming back from LIV. I'll give my honest opinion on LIV. I think it's ridiculous. I had a conversation with Bud Martin was my manager. I've known Bud Martin's from Pittsburgh guy. So I've known Bud and I have known each other since junior golf here. He's a couple of years older than me, but I've known Bud since I was 13. I love Bud Martin, but we got into this conversation regarding LIV and like, for instance, what I told him, and we were up at Oakmont. Bud's also a member up at Oakmont. And I just said, look, this is a game destroyer. He says, oh, I disagree with you. I said, look, I get it for guys like Kevin Na, for guys maybe like Dustin Johnson, for Phil Mickelson, guys who are, beyond their apex. Mm-hmm. I get that. I said, but your guy, Cameron Smith, I said, this has destroyed his game. I said, buddy, now obviously this year they're going to 72 holes. I said, it's a 3-round exhibition with no cut. Mm-hmm. I said, there's nothing, the finest steel is forged in the hottest flame, which is the PGA Tour. And I said, Cameron Smith is going to ruin his game. And it has. I mean, he literally he's a footnote. So when I see guys like Brooks Koepka saying, you know what, my contract's up, I'll pay whatever it is to come back to the PGA Tour, that tells you something. I think that, obviously when Brooks left, Brooks was there, he had an injury and he didn't know if he was going to ever be able to return to form. Right. But I think that when you go and you take a look at it, and I was a journeyman. I played 5 years on the PGA Tour. As you noted, I won on what's now called the Korn Ferry Tour. I lost a sudden death playoff in the Canadian Open in '98 to Billy Andrade, which, as a footnote, got him off my Christmas card list. So I mean, it saved me like 55 cents a year since 1999. But at the end of the day, I was a journeyman. And you like to see opportunities for guys like myself who have dedicated their life to it, in spite of not being a star. I mean, nobody worked harder than me, and I was a good player. But at the end of the day, it's the star power is what drives the PGA Tour. The star power is what drives any sport. That's where we are because it's all media driven. So I think the idea of having 120-man fields. I think a limited schedule, I think, is going to really help and get the top names, maybe be a little bit more interested, obviously with the money there. And I think what I like is what you have seen, the genesis of the Korn Ferry Tour, where now, look, I won, and when I won $20,000. It was 1991. Now you win $180,000 or $150,000. So the nice thing is that the Korn Ferry Tour, the purses are such now where if you are a solid player, you can actually make a living, support your family, but most importantly, it helps you getting tournament tough to when you can take that next step, have an opportunity in the PGA Tour, and the cream comes to the top. I remember years ago, in player meetings, and there was the old story about Jim Colbert telling the story about in the 70s. When I was 14, I caddied in the PGA Championship at Oakmont. I'd been a caddy there. We had been members there for about 5 or 6 years. And I still remember in 1978, the club professional I caddied for was from Olathe, Kansas. And I remember him giving me $6 to go get 3 bags of balls. They still charge for range balls. 78 PGA Championship, a lot of the players still use local caddies. And so in the 70s, somebody was complaining about this, that they were always complaining. All right, they were always whining sessions, these player meetings. And Colbert got up in the 70s and he just said, hey, does anybody notice that Jack Nicklaus never comes to these meetings? And everybody's like, yeah. He said, do you know why? He says, because Jack Nicklaus gets everything that he wants out here because he's beating everybody. He said the rule is play better. And that's what it comes down to. The cream comes to the top. And I think that the new commissioner, the CEO, as you say, he comes from the NFL. He's got a business background, and I think it's a breath of fresh air. And I like where we're going to go, and I like the fact that Tiger Woods is involved as well.
Wow, I love your answer. Didn't expect that from a guy who worked hard to kind of stay inside that top 125, and I appreciate that in a lot of ways. I just hope from a guy who's been out there and seen players come out of nowhere. Maybe they coming back from an injury or haven't won in 5 years, or they really needed this because they had nowhere else to go and play. I mean, those are pretty amazing stories, Bob, and I hope we don't lose those. But maybe we won't, because maybe it will inspire these guys.
I think that your stories like that are going to evolve from the Korn Ferry Tour. And
Okay.
I can tell you this, Doug, if the Korn Ferry Tour, if they were still, hey, $35,000 for first place and you make the cut and you make $750, my attitude would be different. But when you go and you take a look at this, again, it is, the PGA Tour is elite. You sit there, my last year as a full member of the PGA Tour was 2000. And I can tell you that when you sit there, the saying is, the older I get, the better I used to be. But when you sit there and you talk to people, and my career's long gone, and like I said, I was a journeyman. I made a living. I loved it. I played with Palmer, Watson, Ballesteros. I was paired with Palmer and Ballesteros at Bay Hill on Thursday and Friday.
Wow.
I'm the answer to a trivia question: who played with Tiger Woods in his first PGA Tour event back in '92, the LA Open?
Yes.
So I had a really interesting life.
Yes.
But at the same time, you have to have the Korn Ferry Tour is going to be where those stories evolve. And look, the fact of the matter is, if you finish in that top 10 of the Korn Ferry Tour, you and I both know you've got some game. And if you have some game, then if that's going to translate there. But at the same time, too, I take a look at my career. When you talk to people like, oh, yeah, I played in the PGA Tour. It's like, well, I played in the PGA Tour as a member for 5 years. There's about 150, there's about 150 members of the PGA Tour. I said, so I want you to do the math. There's at that time, about 40 million men around the world that played the game of golf. And I was one of 150 that played on the PGA Tour. I said, you do the math. And you tell me, even though I was a journeyman, is that elite? I mean, I think that's pretty elite when you get to the top.
Yes.
So I think that they have to do something. I think that the PGA Tour has to evolve, but most importantly, they've got to get these stars to come back. And I think that you've seen is that once these guys kind of see what's going on with Liv and the loud music and the shorts and everything else, a little bit of a circus, you're seeing less and less of the top talent jump to Liv, and they're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. And I mean, for me, if I was 40 years old and that was offered to me when it evolved, I would say, yeah, I'll do that. I mean, you got to think for your family, this, that, and the other. But nobody as a youngster when they're 14 years old working on the putting green, hitting balls all day long is dreaming, God, I can't wait. I dream about getting on that Live Tour and playing for aces in 54-hole tournaments in front of 10,000 people, as opposed to I want to be on the 18th green at the stadium course around 60,000 people having to make that putt.
Yes.
Nobody dreams of playing on the Live Tour.
And I will say this, every stop, no exaggeration. Last week was Valspar, the Players' Championship, Bay Hill, Arnie's tournament, even the Cognizant over here, PGA National. Bob, on Sunday, 15, 16, 17, 18, all these stops. It's mass hysteria as people are getting excited about the finish. So I don't care. It doesn't always have to be Scotty and Rory. I've seen some pretty exciting finishes. All right, a couple more questions before we let you go. I know you're busy. Tiger is 50. Does he have to play on the Champions Tour to give that tour a shot in the arm? I mean, he's not going to play a lot. Some people are saying the Insperity tournament at the Woodlands, they have a business arrangement, Insperity and the Tiger Woods Foundation. Does he have to play to help that tour?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that, look, I know that, the number that I'm sure you've heard, the number that he was offered from Liv was like 800 million or $1 billion. He's just like
absurd. Yeah,
it's absurd. But Tiger's like, no, I'm PGA Tour.
Okay.
I think that Tiger, number one, Tiger's super competitive. It's just kind of sad what's happened, since he wins the Tour Championship, and then he comes back and he wins the Masters, and then you got this horrific car accident. It basically ended his career.
Yep.
He's got the fire in his furnace. They say, he can ride. I don't see Tiger Woods riding a kart if he competes. But I think that if Tiger were to come out there, and I'm sure the PGA Tour has talked to him, and the PGA Tour champions has talked to him. Look, if you could give us 4 or 5 starts, that would really help and really kind of move the needle. I think that had this Live not come around, I think that Mickelson probably would have spent time playing, maybe 5 or 6 events on the Champions Tour, which would have helped as well. But I think that anywhere Tiger goes, it changes. It moves the needle, and I think that we really need to have him out there playing at least half a dozen, 4 to 6 tournaments a year.
All right, Bobby. Lastly, your beloved Pittsburgh Pirates. And again, for our listeners, Bob's dad was one of the great players in Pittsburgh Pirates history, Bob Francini. He had an incredible name, the Warrior, which I love, right? And if you look at his stats, Bob, I was looking at him last night. Some of his years, like 1956, 350 innings. He was 17 and 17. I don't think he ever left the game. Pretty amazing stuff. Of course, he was on the 1960 World Champs. The great Bill Mazeroski. We lost him.
Actually, the picture's right behind me.
Is it? No kidding.
Yeah,
How cool is that?
Picture. Yeah,
wow.
So that's in my office, and you actually, if you look at the picture, it's the moment that the home run was struck. You can actually pick the ball up in the sky, and you can see Yogi Berra in the back. So yeah.
Wow. And what a World Series that was. Those not only for the Pirates, but the players on the Yankees were amazing. But I got to ask you, the Pirates, the NL Central's wide open, and you got the best pitcher in the game, Paul Skeens, and you got this other kid, Bubba Chandler, who throws like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he knows where it's going all the time, but man, he has an arm. Is this the year the Pirates make a move, Bob? I mean, it's about time, right? Pirates?
It's been 10 years. I think the Pirates have a really good chance. The guy that a lot of people aren't talking about. Paul Skeens, I'm an LSU guy, LSU boy.
Yes.
At the end of the day, the guy that nobody's talking about, he's been a very consistent starter. He struggles after the All-Star break, is Mitch Keller. I think Mitch Keller's going to have a great year. You've got Bubba Chandler, who's a flamethrower. Obviously, Paul Skeens. Not only he's just as you know, when we drafted him, I'll give you a quick answer. When we drafted him, I was playing the Pittsburgh Pirate Alumni Golf Tournament, which I play in every year. And Steve Blass, all the guys are there. It's great.
Wow.
And so when we drafted him, I was on the putting green talking with Blass, who was my father's roommate. So when Blass came up in '64, my father had been with the Pirates since 1951. So they put the rookie with the grizzled veteran. There's some great stories between my dad and Blass.
Great story.
So Blass is, I've known Steve since I was a young boy, great guy, voice of the Pirates forever. So Rick Russell was there, Big Daddy was there. And I said, what do you guys think? And they both said the same thing. They both said, if the Pirates don't screw him up, he said he's a cross between Tom Seaver and Roger Clemens. He's going to be world beater.
Wow.
So I think that the Pirates bought, they invested in some bats this year. The one to watch, although he's not going to be on the opening day rosters, is Connor Griffin. This guy, you know, when you're sitting there, I might have this wrong, but Ken Griffey Jr. was maybe the last teenager to start in the major leagues on opening day. I think maybe I got that wrong, but
I think you may be right. I'll check that. Yeah,
he's one of the last. You know, they were talking about this kid starting. He's 19 years old. You know, 6'4", 6'5". He's got all the skills, and he's not going to be there for opening day. But I fully suspect the Pirates will probably have this kid up here in late May. We do a little thing here with Howard Hanna, which Howard Hanna, we're not in Alabama. We're in Naples, Florida now, but Howard Hanna is the largest family-owned real estate company in the United States. That's a company that I'm a broker for. And Hottie, Hoddy, not like Hottie Toddy, but Hottie is Howard Hanna. They call him Hottie. Right. Hottie has a poll every year. How many wins for the Pirates? And I put my number in this year, and I said, I think the Pirates go in 86 games. And he said the tiebreaker is Paul Skeens. I think Paul Skeens will win 16 games. And the reason is, you know, the way that the pitchers are this year. Nobody in this day and age, it's very rare to get a 20-game winner because they're all pulled out at certain times with your middle reliever, your closer, your spot reliever. But I think the Pirates are going to be dramatically better this year. I think O'Neal Cruz is finally going to break out. You know, if he can go and he could be one of the top 5 base stealers in all of baseball. If he can go and hit 250, 260 this year, might end up he could be a 30 home run guy. So I'm very excited for the Pirates for the first time in a long time. So that's my prediction. 86 wins, Paul Skeens, 16 wins.
I can hear the excitement in your voice. I love it, Bob.
Go Bucks.
I mean, once a Pirates fan, always a Pirates
fan,
right?
Baby.
And I will say, listen, I love baseball. And when I was looking at what your dad, his numbers last night, those old pitchers back in the 50s and 60s, they just kept throwing. I guess when the pitching coach came out, they're like, get out of here. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, it was funny because we were talking. When I was just getting started in my career, I played a lot of casual golf with Jack Nicklaus. Jackie Nicklaus and I were friends. And so we were there, and we were out there playing Loxahatchee, casual in the evening. So Jack, a little younger than my dad, about 10 years younger than my dad, he said, remember your dad? He said, I know he was a great ball player. He said, what was his best year? I said, in 1955, he led the league in ERA and his team finished in last place. I said, but in terms of wins, I said in 58, he finished third in the runner. He said, finished third in the Cy Young. He went 22-14. He goes, 36 decisions. He said, was there anybody else on that staff? So, yeah, I mean, he won both games of a doubleheader against the Cubs. He pitched 3,611 innings in a 16-year career. So averaged over 200 innings a year, and he never missed a start in 15 years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was tough. The Warrior. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the great baseball has great nicknames. That's right up there in the top 10.
That's a good one, yeah.
The Warrior. So, hey, Bob, listen, it's been awesome catching up, my friend. And I'm so glad that Rod brought me out to Seminole. And, we started talking. I said, hey, you don't happen to know Bob Friend? Oh, do I know Bob Friend?
Yeah, exactly.
It was great.
Yeah, he's great. Classy guy, great guy, wonderful guy. I see him up at Oakmont basically every week and when I go up.
Yeah,
you need to make an Oakmont trip.
Huh?
You need to make an Oakmont trip.
I want to. I've been up there, to do the broadcast or whatever, but I've never played Oakmont.
You need to play it. It's like a punch in the mouth. But here's the thing with Oakmont. This is what I'll leave you with. So, you can play the stadium course and you go out there, and if it's windy, you can lose 6 to 8 balls. The thing with Oakmont is this. You'll go out there and you'll tee off number one with a Titleist 1, and you'll finish the 18th hole with that same Titleist 1. You will not lose a golf ball, and you'll shoot the highest round of the year. It just is that. It's that hard. It's just hard. There's no out of bounds. There's no water. There's no trees. It's just all right out in front of you, and it's a punch in the mouth. It's wonderful.
I can't wait. Well, great. At my age, I get punched in the mouth a lot, Bob. What can I
hear you.
Thanks, my friend. Great to see you.
Great to see you too, Doug. Anytime. You got my number. Stay in touch, okay?
Yep. Thanks, Bobby.
God bless.